there comes a moment in every person's life, a moment when the weight of tomorrow feels so heavy upon today that even breathing becomes a prayer. In that moment, prayer becomes the only lifeline, the sole barrier between you and the abyss. Perhaps you've already felt it, that overwhelming sense of dread in the quiet hours of the night, when the shadows on the ceiling seem to take shape, reflecting all your fears and uncertainties. Welcome to Timeless Prayer. Or maybe this burden has been following you for weeks, gnawing at you with the unsettling certainty that something terrible is lurking. Though its name, its form, its cause remain unknown, right now, as I speak these words to you, there's someone in Sao Paulo pacing the kitchen floor, burdened by bills that feel like they are closing in on her, and a bank account that offers no solace. A father in Dublin is sitting in his car, parked outside his child's school, hands trembling as the weight of anxiety convinces him that he is failing in his most sacred role as a parent. And in Manila, a woman stares at her phone, too afraid to answer because of the dread that the next call might be the one that brings her world crashing down. These people don't know each other. They are scattered across continents, across time zones, but they share one powerful thing in common. In the darkness of their hearts, they are about to discover that a friar who lived 800 years ago understands their pain more deeply than anyone alive today. His name was Antonio, known to the world as Saint Anthony of Padua, and he is about to become the answer to your prayers. Prayers that you may not even know how to voice. What I am sharing with you now is not merely a comforting theory from books, but the testimony of countless souls who have stood on the brink of despair, only to find in that dark hour the steady and loving hand of Saint Anthony, leading them back to hope and light. Some call these moments miracles, others call them coincidences, but those who have experienced them know the truth. Saints walk among us, closer than our own heartbeat, more present than our very breath. And now, if you're listening to these words, if something deep inside you has brought you here, despite the distractions of the world, then I urge you to make a simple act of faith. Hit that like button right now, not for the algorithm, not for anyone else, but as a declaration to the heavens. I still believe in the possibility of something beautiful, something miraculous. Saint Anthony of Padua is here with you, ready to answer your cries, to offer his protection, and to lead you through your trials toward peace. I place my trust in you, Saint Anthony, and I await the miracle that you will bring into my life. Under your protection, I find solace and strength, knowing that you are with me, guiding me through this storm. Please intercede for me, for all who are struggling, and bring about the change that we so desperately need. We trust in your power. We wait with hope, and we believe that through you, we shall find peace once again. If someone's name just crossed your mind, someone who might be awake, battling racing thoughts, share this with them. Sometimes we become angels to one another without even realizing it. Long ago, they called him Santo Antonio de Lisboa. That was before the world knew him as Saint Anthony of Padua. Born in the late 12th century, a time when maps still marked unknown lands with the ominous words, "Here be dragons." Yet the dragons Saint Anthony would face were not mythical creatures, but the very struggles of the human heart, doubt, fear, and the paralyzing anxiety that whispers, "Has God forgotten my name?" Anthony was meant to lead a quiet life, born into nobility and destined for a life in the cathedral. His future seemed laid out before him like a map of liturgical seasons and scholarly pursuits. But God often has a way of interrupting our carefully planned lives. When young Anthony encountered 5 Franciscan friars on their way to martyrdom in Morocco, something ignited deep within him, something that would burn fiercely for the rest of his life. They spoke of a love so intense that it made death seem like a doorway instead of a barrier. They spoke of peace so profound that it could transform terror into trust, with a heart full of desire for this same peace. Anthony abandoned his comfortable life to follow them, choosing uncertainty over security, obscurity over reputation, and a path that led through deserts, both literal and spiritual. Does this resonate with you? Perhaps you felt the tug of God's call to leave behind what was familiar and safe in search of something deeper, something that promises peace even amidst turmoil. When anxiety threatens to steal your hope, when stress demands that you give up your peace, when fear insists that you choose despair, remember the path Anthony walked. It wasn't easy, and his journey was not what he expected. After he set out for Morocco, his journey was interrupted by illness, and the ship that was meant to carry him across the seas was blown off course by storms. He found himself stranded in Italy, far from his intended destination, with his dreams lying in ruin at his feet. Have you ever been there, in that place where all your hopes and plans crumble, where the future you envisioned disappears like morning mist, leaving you standing in unfamiliar territory without a guide for months? Anthony lived in a hermitage near Icy, sweeping floors, tending gardens, and living in the shadows while other friars preached to large crowds and performed miracles. His life appeared ordinary, unremarkable even, but in that quiet, seemingly unsuccessful season, something extraordinary was unfolding, stripped of ambition and earthly success. Anthony learned to hear the voice of God that speaks in silence. He discovered the deep peace that only comes when we surrender everything to God. This is the peace that those who seek St. Anthony's intercession for anxiety truly long for, the ability to find God's presence when everything else seems lost. It's not the peace that comes from having all the answers, but the peace that comes when we realize that even when life doesn't make sense, love is still writing our story. Can you feel the shift that happens when you recognize that God is with you, even in the moments when your plans fall apart? Anthony's breakthrough came suddenly, unexpectedly, just as grace often does. During an ordination in Forlì, when the scheduled preacher didn't show, Anthony was asked to speak. Reluctantly, humbly, and likely terrified, he agreed. But when he opened his mouth, something amazing happened. Words poured out of him, not just words, but wisdom, poetry, and fire. The simple friar, who had been overlooked by others, was revealed as one of the greatest theologians of his time. But more than that, his words carried a compassion that touched the deepest wounds of human hearts. People didn't come just to hear his brilliant sermons. They came because his presence brought them peace. They came in droves, 30,000 at a time, because Anthony offered something far more than intellectual wisdom. He offered healing for anxious souls. His words reminded them of something they had forgotten in their anxiety. They were loved with an everlasting love, held by hands that would never let them go. What was the secret of his power? How did a man who had known disappointment, failure, and uncertainty become such a source of peace for others? The answer lies in the lessons Anthony learned in that hermitage, in the silence and solitude that seemed like failure. Anthony discovered that anxiety is not the enemy of faith. Sometimes it's the very doorway to deeper trust. Can you feel it now, that moment when someone truly understands what you've been going through? That is Saint Anthony's gift to us. He doesn't look down on you for feeling anxious. He doesn't condemn you for doubting. He remembers his own sleepless nights, his own fears, his own moments when he wondered if God had forgotten him. He understands because he's walked through the darkness too. If you're still with me, if you haven't turned away or sought distractions. Something profound is happening in your heart. Your willingness to stay, to listen for hope amidst your struggle, to believe that peace is still possible even when anxiety tells you otherwise. This is faith in action. Saint Anthony sees it, and he is drawing near to you now, moved by the sincere seeking of your heart. Would you consider doing something that might seem small but could change everything? Will you subscribe to this channel, not as a passive observer, but as someone who is actively choosing to fight against anxiety with faith? Someone who is determined to trust that their breakthrough is coming. By subscribing, you are making a powerful declaration. I will not give up. I believe in the miracle that is on its way, and I'm willing to learn from those saints who have walked this path before me. There is a story of a wealthy merchant who came to St. Anthony, gripped by anxiety over his business ventures. His heart was heavy with worry, consumed by fear of failure and loss. He begged the saint to pray for the success of his investments, for the safe return of his ships, and for his profits to multiply. With the compassion that poured from his heart, Saint Anthony listened carefully, understanding the depth of the man's distress. Then, he asked a question that would change everything for the merchant. If you lost everything tomorrow, would you still be valuable to God? The merchant was struck silent. He had never once considered such a thing. All his life, his worth had been measured by his possessions, his success, his ability to achieve. It was a bitter realization, one that pierced the very core of his identity. Saint Anthony continued, gently yet firmly, "Your anxiety is not about money. It is about whether you believe you are loved apart from what you accomplish. Your true worth is not bound to what you possess or achieve." The saint spoke truth that transcended time. Until we place our identity in God's eternal love rather than in fleeting circumstances, we will never experience true peace. No amount of wealth or success can fill the void of this longing. In that moment, the merchant's life was forever changed. He began to understand that security, peace, and fulfillment do not come from controlling outcomes, but from the unshakable love of God, love that is constant, never failing, and always present. His business flourished, but more importantly, he found rest, for his worth was no longer tied to his wealth, and his peace no longer hinged on the ebb and flow of life's uncertainties. This profound wisdom reaches you today. The anxiety that keeps you awake at night, the stress that clouds every thought, the worry that steals your joy. It is not about the circumstances you face. It is about a deeper fear, a question that lingers quietly in your soul. What if I am not enough? What if God doesn't see me? What if I am truly alone in this struggle? These fears, though they may feel heavy and insurmountable, are the very ones Saint Anthony addresses with his intercession. His prayers, his presence, and his compassionate guidance speak directly to the deepest fears that lie beneath your anxiety. Through Saint Anthony, you are reminded that you are seen, known, loved, and held by a God whose love is as unchanging as the stars in the sky, whose care extends to every moment of your life, even to the very number of hairs on your head. But there is something else to consider. Many of us wrestle with a deeper question. What if our prayers seem unanswered? What if, despite our most sincere devotion, the anxiety persists? What if the circumstances don't improve, even after months of prayer and seeking St. Anthony's intercession? In these moments, remember this: St. Anthony's intercession does not promise that life will become easy. It promises something far greater, that you will never face your struggles alone. It promises that grace will be sufficient for everything you encounter, and that even in your darkest moments, love is walking with you when you feel overwhelmed. when the weight of anxiety seems unbearable, hold fast to the truth. You are never alone. Trust in the intercession of Saint Anthony, and wait expectantly for the miracle of peace and comfort to fill your heart. Know that God's love is always with you, always sustaining you, and always lifting you up, no matter the circumstances. When life's burdens weigh heavily upon us, it's natural to ask for peace, relief, and miracles. But sometimes, the answer to our prayers isn't the removal of hardship, but the gift of supernatural strength to endure, grow, and transform through it. The peace we seek may not always come in the form of immediate relief, but in the gradual yet powerful transformation of our hearts and minds. Through trust, we find the courage to stand firm amidst uncertainty. And often, what we receive is far beyond what we expected, something far greater than what we knew how to ask for. Such was the experience of Elena, a mother from Barcelona, whose daughter was diagnosed with a chronic illness that would demand lifelong care. In the face of overwhelming anxiety, Elena's heart was consumed with fears about the mounting medical costs, her daughter's uncertain future, and her own ability to manage the care her child so desperately needed. Desperate and uncertain, she turned to Saint Anthony, praying fervently for healing, a miracle, or any sign that things would improve. As the months passed, however, the illness remained. The medical bills piled up, and the weight of the future seemed heavier than ever. Yet, over time, Elena began to notice something extraordinary happening within her. She was not crumbling under the immense pressure as she feared. She was discovering inner strength she never knew she had, finding herself connecting with other parents in similar situations, and forming a network of support she never would have encountered otherwise. And most remarkably, she noticed that her bond with her daughter had deepened in ways that were both unexpected and beautiful as they navigated the challenges together. One day, as she sat in another doctor's waiting room, Elena suddenly realized that Saint Anthony had been answering her prayers, but not in the way she had envisioned. Rather than removing the trial, Saint Anthony had been quietly transforming her heart. She had asked for a miracle, hoping for her daughter's healing, but what she received was a miracle of a different kind. She had been healed of the belief that she couldn't endure hardship, that God had abandoned them in their suffering, and that anxiety had to define their story. The external challenges remained, but Elena found within herself an unexpected and powerful capacity to handle them with grace. And she knew that Saint Anthony had been guiding her through the entire journey. This is often how Saint Anthony's intercession works. It doesn't always manifest through dramatic, immediate changes, but through subtle, quiet transformations that help us recognize our own strength, the depth of God's love, and the support of a greater presence that walks with us through all our trials. He helps us find what we didn't even know we needed: peace in the midst of chaos, strength in the face of overwhelming obstacles, and the assurance that we are never truly alone, no matter how dark the situation may seem. Moreover, Saint Anthony offers particular comfort to those of us who feel abandoned by God. He knows what it is to face the silence of heaven, to endure seasons of obscurity and isolation. In his time in the hermitage, when his missionary dreams seemed shattered and unrecognized, Saint Anthony faced what mystics call the dark night of the soul. It was during this time of apparent abandonment, when it seemed as though God was silent and distant, that Saint Anthony learned to hear God's voice more clearly than ever before. In the very darkness he endured, he found a light that could never be extinguished, and in the silence, he discovered the most profound presence of all. When you turn to Saint Anthony in your moments of anxiety, You are not seeking the intercession of a saint who lived a life of uninterrupted blessings or easy faith. You are turning to a saint who, like you, has known suffering, isolation, and doubt. Yet, it was through these very experiences that St. Anthony found the grace to endure, to believe, and to serve with unwavering faith. He is a living witness to the truth that, even in our deepest struggles, we are never alone. So, I encourage you to take a moment and simply declare, "Saint Anthony, I trust you." Do not overthink it. Do not wait for the feeling of trust to fill you completely, but take a step of faith and make that choice, trusting that your willingness to try, no matter how small it may feel, is seen and honored in heaven. And as you do, share with us where you are from, so that this message of hope may reach every corner of the earth, touching anxious hearts in every country, every culture, and every language. Your trust, however small it feels right now, is enough. Your faith, no matter how fragile, is powerful and known by God. Keep holding on, for you are seen, you are loved, and a miracle is already unfolding in your life. There is a prayer that has been offering peace to troubled hearts for over 8 centuries. And it's not just a magic formula or an instant fix, it's something far more profound and beautiful. It acts as a bridge that connects your anxious heart to the loving intercession of a saint who understands exactly what you're going through. Before we come together in this prayer, it's important for you to understand something vital about how this prayer works. It's not about convincing God to care for you. He already loves you more than you can imagine. It's not about having perfect words or perfect devotion. Grace isn't something you earn, it's a gift. This prayer works by simply opening your heart to receive the peace and strength that God has always been offering you. Peace that surpasses all understanding. Strength that comes not from your own ability, but from the infinite source of all good things. Some people pray this prayer once and feel immediate relief, while others may notice the peace creeping in more slowly, like the gradual rising of the sun, gently spreading light until you realize that darkness has lifted. Both experiences are real gifts. Both are ways St. Anthony helps you return to the truth that, despite your struggles, you are loved, you are safe, and you are never alone. St. Anthony, you who found God's peace even in the ruins of broken dreams, I ask you to meet me in the ruins of my own fears and uncertainties. You who learned to trust when life made no sense. Show me how to trust when anxiety tries to make me believe there is no hope. You who found strength in weakness and hope in disappointment. Guide me to find those same gifts in my struggles today. I turn to you, not because I am strong in my faith, but because I am weak and need your help. I seek you not because my trust is unshaken, but because anxiety has stolen my ability to trust, and I need your intercession for what I cannot even ask for myself. Take my restless thoughts, my racing heart, my sleepless nights, and my constant worries about tomorrow, and carry them to Jesus, who understands the depths of troubled spirits. You, who spoke to creation itself when human hearts were closed to peace, speak to my heart when anxiety has locked it away from calm. You, who have helped countless souls find what they have lost, help me find the peace, hope, and trust that worry has taken from me. Through your gentle intercession, may I come to realize that beneath all my uncertainty lie the eternal arms of God's love. St. Anthony, I place into your tender care this heavy burden that weighs so heavily on my heart. You know what it is, even if I struggle to put it into words. Whether it's a concern about my family, my health, my work, my future, or even a constant feeling that something terrible is looming ahead, I entrust it all to you. Help me remember that the same God who supported you in your struggles is right here, supporting me and mine. The same Jesus who calmed your anxious heart is here to comfort mine. The same divine love that turned your disappointments into blessings is working in my life right now, even if I can't yet see how. Through your powerful intercession, may I learn to cast all my cares upon Him who cares for me. May I come to understand that God's love for me is the one true constant in an uncertain world. May I find in every challenge an invitation to experience God's faithfulness in deeper and more profound ways. Pray for me, Saint Anthony, now and always. Amen. Take a moment now and notice what is happening in your body. Is your breathing a little deeper? Are your shoulders less tense? Has anything shifted in the way you feel? These small changes matter more than you realize. They're signs that heaven has heard your prayer, that Saint Anthony has taken your concerns and brought them before God, and that peace is already making its way toward you. But something even more significant is happening beyond your physical relaxation. Every time you choose prayer over panic, you are rewiring your soul for trust. Every time you turn to spiritual help instead of being overwhelmed by worry, you are strengthening your ability to experience peace that anxiety cannot take away. Each time you reach out to heaven instead of relying only on your own limited resources, you are deepening your connection to a love that never fails. This transformation doesn't happen all at once. It's like learning to play an instrument. The first time you sit at the piano, your fingers feel awkward, and the sounds you make are anything but music. But with practice, patience, and persistence, those same fingers begin to create beautiful melodies. Your relationship with anxiety and peace is the same. Each prayer, every time you choose trust over fear, every time you turn to Saint Anthony instead of spiraling into worry, is building a new path in your soul toward lasting peace. Each step you take brings you closer to the calm you long for and the strength that only comes from God's love. In moments when anxiety steals your peace, when stress clouds your mind, and when fear seems to hold you captive, remember this: you are not alone. Just as countless souls have found solace in the loving intercession of Saint Anthony of Padua, so too can you. He who walked through life's darkest valleys, understanding the depths of human struggle, is ready to walk beside you, offering the same comfort and peace he once gave to those who called upon him. In your heart, when the world feels heavy and hope seems out of reach, take a step of faith and call upon Saint Anthony. Open your heart to his intercession. Trust that he who turned his own trials into a testimony of God's grace will guide you through your storm. O Saint Anthony of Padua, you who have known the depths of human suffering, anxiety, and doubt, I come before you today in a state of quiet desperation. You, who walked this earth as a humble servant of God and faced trials that no one would envy, understand the fears and burdens that weigh upon my heart. I come to you not because I have faith as steadfast as the mountains, but because I am struggling to find peace in a world that seems to offer none. My heart trembles, my mind races, and the weight of uncertainty crushes my spirit. Yet in this very moment, I feel a glimmer of hope as I remember your loving presence and the power of your intercession before our Father in heaven. I ask you, Saint Anthony, to intercede for me now. I am overwhelmed by the stresses of life, by the worries of today, the fears of tomorrow, and the burdens of the past that seem to cling to me with a relentless grip. In these anxious moments, when I feel like I am standing on the edge of a precipice, unable to see a way forward, I turn to you, you who have been a light in the darkness for countless souls. I place my trust in you, knowing that you have the power to bring peace to my troubled heart. In the silence of my suffering, I hear the echo of my own fears. What if I am not enough? What if I fail? What if the trials I face will only grow heavier, with no relief in sight? These questions swirl in my mind, pulling me deeper into despair. But St. Anthony, you who have known the weight of such thoughts, I ask you to lift me from this place of doubt. You, who have faced moments of darkness and uncertainty, know the pain of feeling lost and alone. You understand the anguish of not knowing what the future holds, of feeling abandoned by the world and by God. Yet, through it all, you found the grace to trust. You found the strength to believe that even in the most difficult moments, God's love was greater than any fear or sorrow. You, who were led by the hand of God through storms and confusion, show me how to trust when my heart is trembling with anxiety. Help me to surrender my worries to God, knowing that He is always with me, guiding me with love and care. In this moment, I let go of my need to control the future, and I place my heart in the hands of the one who is already walking with me through every trial. St. Anthony, you know what it is to face disappointment, to have dreams shattered and plans turned upside down. When your path was not what you had imagined, when your plans for missionary work in Morocco were thwarted by illness and storm, you did not give in to despair. Instead, you found peace in the surrender of your own will, and you trusted that God was leading you on a different journey, one that would bring blessings not just for you, but for countless others. I, too, find myself at a crossroads where the future seems uncertain and my plans feel out of reach. Yet, I know that God's plan for me is greater than anything I could have imagined. Help me, St. Anthony, to trust in His divine timing and His perfect plan for my life. I know that the road ahead may not be easy, and that my struggles may not be taken away in an instant. But I also know that with you by my side, I can face whatever comes my way. You, who have known both the sweetness of God's presence and the pain of His silence, can show me how to find peace in the midst of my struggles. Help me to understand that true peace does not come from the absence of challenges, but from the presence of God in the midst of them. When I feel overwhelmed by the weight of the world, remind me that I do not carry it alone. I ask you to intercede for me, St. Anthony, and for all those who are burdened by anxiety and stress. There are so many of us, scattered across the world, struggling in silence, feeling the weight of fear and uncertainty pressing upon us. In our moments of doubt, help us to remember that God is always with us, that His love never fails, and that His peace is greater than any anxiety. Through your intercession, may we find the courage to face each day with faith, trusting that God is leading us through every trial, every challenge, and every fear. St. Anthony, you who have been a beacon of hope for so many, hear my prayer today. You know the deepest desires of my heart, the things I fear, and the struggles that weigh heavily on my soul. I trust in your ability to bring peace to my anxious heart, and I ask you to carry my concerns to God. Intercede for me in this moment of distress, and help me to feel God's loving embrace surrounding me. May I feel His presence in every moment of uncertainty, knowing that I am never alone, and that He is always by my side. As I turn to you, St. Anthony, I remember that you are not a saint who lived a life free from suffering, but one who walked through the darkest of valleys, only to emerge on the other side with a deeper understanding of God's love. Your journey was not one of ease, but one of transformation. You were not simply a man who preached peace, but one who lived it, even when life did not go according to plan. Your strength came from a deep trust in God, and that trust became a source of peace for all those who sought your help. Help me to learn that same trust, St. Anthony. Teach me to surrender my fears and anxieties to God, knowing that He will carry them for me. Help me to find peace in the knowledge that I am loved by God, no matter what I may face. When anxiety threatens to steal my joy, remind me of God's promise to never leave me nor forsake me. When my thoughts are consumed by worry, guide me back to the truth that I am held in the hands of a loving Father, whose love is steadfast and unchanging. Saint Anthony, you who brought peace to so many troubled hearts during your time on earth, I ask you to bring that same peace to my heart now. Help me to let go of the things that are beyond my control, and to trust in God's perfect plan for my life. When I am afraid, help me to remember that I am not alone. When I am overwhelmed, remind me that God's grace is sufficient for every moment. When I feel lost, show me the way back to God's love. Through your intercession, Saint Anthony, I ask for peace for myself and for all those who are struggling with anxiety and stress. May your example of faith, hope, and trust inspire me to walk with God through every challenge. And may I come to understand that peace is not the absence of trouble, but the presence of God in the midst of it. Help me to see that, even in my darkest moments, God's light is shining brightly, guiding me toward healing, hope, and peace. Saint Anthony, I place my life in your hands. I trust that you will intercede for me and bring my prayers before God. I ask for peace in my heart, strength for my soul, and the courage to face each day with faith. I thank you for your love and care, and I trust that, through your intercession, I will find the peace that I seek. Amen. Saint Anthony, faithful servant of God, you who understood the fragility of the human spirit, I turn to you once more in my moment of need. I come before you as one who is weary, as one whose heart is burdened by the weight of worry and the restless churning of anxious thoughts. In the stillness of my soul, I call upon your intercession, knowing that you who once walked this earth in humble service, offering solace and guidance to so many, are still present today, ready to help those who seek your aid. In these times of unrest, when the world seems to be spinning beyond my control, I find myself searching for peace, searching for something that will ease the storm within me. I realize that in my frantic pursuit of comfort and security, I have overlooked the simple yet profound truth that peace can only be found in surrender to God's will. Help me, Saint Anthony, to open my heart to that surrender, to let go of the anxieties that bind me, and to trust in the loving embrace of the Father who sees me, knows me, and loves me beyond measure. When I feel overwhelmed by the worries of life, remind me that my identity is not tied to my achievements, my possessions, or my status. Just as you were once led away from your comfortable life, forced to leave behind what you thought was your path, I too must learn to trust that God's plan is greater than my own. Teach me to find peace in the knowledge that I am not alone in this journey, and that God will provide for me, even when I cannot see the way forward. Saint Anthony, in the quiet moments of your life, you came to know God in a deeply personal way. You didn't need the applause of the world, nor did you seek the comfort of fame or fortune. You simply sought to love and serve God, to trust Him fully, and to be a vessel of His peace to all who came to you in need. I ask that you help me to cultivate that same spirit of quiet trust, of faith that doesn't waver in the face of difficulty, but grows stronger with each challenge that comes my way. Let me remember that even in the most trying moments, God is refining me, teaching me to trust, to wait, and to love even in the midst of hardship. In the midst of my uncertainty, I often find myself turning inward, overwhelmed by the noise of my thoughts and the weight of my worries. Saint Anthony, help me to quiet that inner turmoil, to silence the voices of fear and doubt, and to listen for the still, small voice of God that speaks in the quiet of my heart. just as you once withdrew to the hermitage to find clarity and peace in solitude. Help me to seek the stillness in my own life, to turn away from the distractions and noise that prevent me from hearing God's voice. In that sacred silence, may I find the peace I so desperately long for. I pray that you intercede for me and for all those who are troubled by the anxieties of life. So many of us live in a constant state of stress, constantly worrying about what tomorrow will bring, consumed by thoughts of what we have lost and what we fear we may lose. But through your example, we are reminded that even in the midst of loss and uncertainty, God's love remains constant. May we, like you, learn to surrender our worries to God, trusting that He will guide us through every storm. Saint Anthony, you who were able to speak with such wisdom and authority because of your deep relationship with God, I ask that you intercede for me in this moment. Help me to speak words of faith over my fears, to declare the truths of God's promises over the lies of anxiety. May my heart and mind be renewed in the knowledge that God is with me, that He will never leave me nor forsake me, and that His peace surpasses all understanding. Through your intercession, may I come to rest in the assurance that God is working all things for my good, even when I cannot see how. Saint Anthony, you have taught us that anxiety is not a sign of weakness or a lack of faith, but rather a call to a deeper trust in God. When I feel overwhelmed by the weight of my thoughts and fears, help me to remember that God does not condemn me for my struggles. He understands my pain and is with me, offering His peace and His strength to help me endure. Help me to embrace my vulnerability, to acknowledge my fears, and to bring them before God in prayer. In doing so, may I find that peace which the world cannot give, and that joy which only comes from trusting in God's providence. As I lift my heart to you, Saint Anthony, I am reminded of the many miracles that have taken place through your intercession. You have been a source of healing and peace for countless souls, and I believe that you will continue to be that source of light for me and for all those who turn to you in faith. I ask that you intercede on behalf of all those who are struggling with anxiety, stress, and fear. May your prayers bring us comfort and peace, and may we come to know the deep love that God has for each one of us. Saint Anthony, in the stillness of my heart, I trust that you are bringing my petitions before the throne of God. I trust that, even as I pray, God is at work in my life, bringing peace, healing, and strength in ways that I may not yet understand. Help me to be patient in this process, to trust that the peace I seek will come in God's perfect timing. And in the meantime, help me to continue to trust, to continue to hope, and to continue to pray with faith that God is always with me, even in the darkest moments. I ask for your intercession not only for myself, but for all those who are suffering from the burdens of anxiety and stress. There are so many who feel as though they are drowning in their fears, who feel that their prayers go unanswered, who are losing hope that things will ever change. Saint Anthony, be their advocate and bring them the peace that only God can give. May your intercession open the doors of heaven and allow God's love to pour down upon them, bringing comfort and strength in their time of need. Saint Anthony, I place all my worries, my anxieties, and my fears into your loving hands. I trust that you will carry them before God, and that through your intercession, I will find the peace that I seek. Help me to trust more deeply, to hope more firmly, and to love more fully, knowing that God is with me in every moment, walking beside me through every challenge, and holding me close when I feel alone. I thank you, Saint Anthony, for your constant intercession, for your unwavering faith, and for the peace that you bring to my heart. I place all my trust in you, knowing that you will guide me through this journey and that, through your prayers, I will find the peace and strength that I need to face whatever lies ahead. May God's love surround me, and may I come to rest in His eternal peace. Amen.